Hello and welcome to the Bones Horror Podcast. This is our episode 106. And this week we are dealing Evil Dead Rise. Have we all watched it, guys?
Yep.
Yes? Yeah? So tonight we got Ewan with us.
Hello.
Jess.
Hello.
And Larry.
Hello.
Okay, I'll look forward to this. So we kick straight in with the trailer.
Sure.
Let's go. Bye, Larry.
No matter how busy you ever got, you always found time for me.
I will stay.
I can't believe I'm never going to speak to you again.
Spoiler.
Ew.
Spoiler alert.
When I was just a little girl, I asked my mother,
What is this, Danny? I found it.
what will I be? Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? Here's what she said to me. It's me. Don't let it take my babies.
Okay. What a film.
The abrupt cut.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, we might get in trouble for that. I don't know. Hopefully not. So,
That
I've
lady will
got my
come
normal-
to us in our sleep if we break any copyright. That'll be-
yeah, well, I got in trouble the other day again. So,
Did you?
yeah, it did mean that it was like the trailer that I was playing wasn't allowed to be played in certain like countries like Saudi Arabia and stuff. So I'm absolutely gutted for some of our listeners out that way.
So you've been barred from Saudi Arabia. You can't go there anymore.
Well, only for that episode. It was just that trailer. It was a few places out that way. So it's Iraq, I expect. Iran.
All Middle
wow.
Eastern countries.
Yeah, the whole of the Middle East. There was a fair few names on there. Normally, I do a little intro about what this film's about, but I haven't done it. So hopefully, Larry can explain what this film's about.
Oh, yeah. So basically, it's about an evil book that's found, similar to all the other Evil Deads, if you're familiar.
Yeah.
If not, a family that live in an apartment building. I can't remember exactly where it is. I think
Los Angeles.
Yes, something like that.
What's the music with this?
But you can do.
What elevator music?
Yeah, I need my elevator music.
Go.
That's not elevator music.
Wow, that's like I don't know.
YouTube.
No, it's like a detective drama for 9-year-olds.
It's like what they use on YouTube videos.
It's exactly that.
Yeah.
Just like...
give me some good elevator music. Some good. I want something, that can really, calm.
I want you to meet
Oh yeah.
Dr. Hamilton.
You to get the fuck out of here.
I've lost my other. Yeah, that's not a hero. I've changed my computer recently, everyone, and yeah, it's caused me some little issues. Things are not quite the same as they were last time we did a podcast, but we'll get through it. Sorry, Larry, you carry on. So it's about
apartment.
This is all payback for that last film, you son of a.
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. It was amazing. It is great. It's a great film. And I loved how the general consensus of that film was like, oh, we love horror, but it's too horrific.
Yeah.
I was a bit like,
not horror.
Well,
Speak No Evil. We're talking about when you missed the last episode.
Yeah. Great film. Great film.
Horror.
I love the twist in it as well. I think it was kind of foreseen, I guess, but I really did I think it's a good film, and I'm just a bit skeptical on the American remake because I think James McAvoy fits very well, but I just don't want it to be a watered down version, which Martyrs is the best example.
Do you think it's going to be an English person and an American?
That's a good question. I actually think that James McAvoy will do an American accent. I think because he's quite good at it. But just my biggest worry is just that they're going to do. I know, like, not everyone's a fan of Martyrs, and fair enough. But I didn't like what the American remake did to that. It just felt like, oh, we desperately want to copy the story, but we'll miss out what makes it what it really is. So I'm waiting for that. But anyway,
Evil Dead.
But yeah, with Evil Dead. So
right.
there is a family who live in an apartment building, and the mother of 3 children, her sister comes back. She comes over. She's essentially a musician, a tech musician. She has recently found out she is pregnant and goes over to see her sister. The sister is also going through issues of her own, in that the husband has left, and they need to get rid of the apartment. And long story short, after a earthquake, one of the children finds a book with records, and long story short.
Then he reads he goes through the book, doesn't he? The eldest boy?
Yeah.
Who picks up the book out of, I'd say, in a very elaborate scene setting where an earthquake happens, and then it kind of cracks open like a secret floor.
I love that.
Yeah.
Which, because it used to be a bank vault. And within said vault is this book that was in a safety deposit box.
With very religious like items around it to kind of keep it hidden and protected.
Yeah. Again, very elaborate, but I was willing to go with it. And he takes it out, doesn't he? And then he reads from it. Well, he
cuts his finger on the teeth of it because, and I think one thing to point out is that one thing I like about this film is that they are doing, from the third Evil Dead, that they are trying to say that there are 3 books. So the remake of Evil Dead is canon in this one. So I was a bit worried when I first...
The 2013 Evil Dead.
The 2013 one, because I was a bit worried when they first released the trailer for this, and then I'd seen a lot of interviews with Bruce Campbell, and they're like, we're remaking it again. And I was a bit like... that I liked the 2013 one. I actually thought it was very, very, very good. Especially if you are an Evil Dead fan, I think it does a really decent job. But yeah, so in this one they kind of confirm that there's 3 books, and then they take he has records, and he plays the first record. He plays 2, doesn't he? Gets to the second record, because the first one is the priest, which is one of them is voiced by Bruce Campbell himself.
I didn't know that. Cool. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. The first record is the church trying to basically get approval to research the book, and then the second one is the head priest and 2 other priests who have taken the book to a sanctuary themselves, and they read the words from the book, and that unleashes the evil. And it goes to the mother, because I essentially praise on, like, she's kind of the most defeated, I think, out of all of them. So it prays on her, and then it's just she's very your typical Evil Dead. I don't want to jump into it. I'm going to jump into a gripe that I have with it, because I actually think that there's so many positives.
Something's wrong with your audio.
Oh, is it mine?
You're
fine now. You're fine now. Sorry.
It might be my fan. I'll sort it out in a second, because I've got a fan pointed, so it might be that every time I move. So I'll try and sort that out in a second. So a gripe I have with it is that if you watch the 2013 one and watch this film simultaneously together, it follows exact beat for beat.
Yeah.
So, like, extremely beat for beat, and it only took me the third watch. I was a bit like,
yeah. I mean, this is kind of my problem with it. I mean, sort of mirroring what you said. I mean, I personally, and this may be taboo to say as a fan of horror, but I'm not the biggest Evil Dead fan. because to me, and I think I've said this before about Evil Dead, is that I think it's like when the first one was made, it was like a great example of low budget horror filmmaking that was just sort of coming into the world at the time. And to me, that is kind of what Evil Dead symbolizes to me. And I feel like everything that came after it was an attempt to just increase the budget ridiculously so that they can pretty much do exactly the same thing over and over again. But in my view, it only worked the first time because it's about that low budget. It's about the fact that it had very little plot, and that was part of the fun of it at first. Now it's kind of repeating itself so much. I mean, I didn't dislike this iteration. In fact, I think it's one of the best Evil Deads that's been made. I actually think it's even better than Evil Dead 2. And it's kind of, but the thing is that it's stuck in that, like, sort of, it's stuck in a sort of, that was something they can't get out of, which is, we want to make something different, but it has to be the same. So you've got some great stuff in this one. So I think the directing's very good. I think the production design is very, very good as well. There's so much blood. There's so much sort of care over every detail. Like the book and stuff is like really sort of, the
book
pages
is great.
are made of skin, and it's like so detailed and it's so rich in that element. And I love the mother or the main monster, who just goes manic. And there's that great shot. I think it's my favorite scene in the film where I can't remember who's looking through the peephole, but the mother is like outside in the corridor and she's just wreaking havoc, and it's only from the point of view of the peephole, which I think was a really great creative decision, and quite frightening, especially as it was promoted quite heavily, the image of the monster like looking through the peephole and stuff like that. That's sort of a really great image. And I did have, but I think I had the most fun, I think, in the third act when they actually left the apartment. I think you got some of the best scenes in there, and I think keeping it constricted to that apartment, I don't know. I even though I thought technically everything was great and edited very well, I just got a bit bored, I suppose. It's a weird sort of apartment as well. It's a very sort of like
It's bigger than my house.
yeah, it's bigger, but it's also just really sort of, I know it's meant to be dingy and horrible and stuff like that, but it's sort of like exaggerated, to create that sort of like dark horror aspect of it. I mean, and that's fine. I suppose I don't mind that.
They also, I think they also do this thing, which I mean, you have to really stretch like your imagination, I think, because unlike the other Evil Deads where it's a cabin in the woods, you can argue like, all the shit that goes on, no one's gonna, like, no one would have heard it or seen anything, sort of thing. Whereas with this one, they really want you to stretch. Like they even have, without spoiling anything, but they even have a character at the end on the phone walk out, and she's like, I couldn't sleep because of all the lightning. And it's like, there literally was gunshots. And
again, like another bit where I was like, it's I mean, I also didn't much like the start of it. There's like a prologue at the beginning. Wow, a kind of sort of, in chronological terms, it takes place after the end of the movie. But it's a kind of prologue that starts in a cabin in the woods, and then these like monstrosities come back. It was quite interesting to watch because it's trying to say that this isn't going to be like the other Evil Deads. You think so, but it's not. It's like it's sort of exemplified in a quite a weird way, where they have that typical shot sort of floating through the forest, and then it transpires that it's actually a drone sort of flying through. I thought that was fairly interesting, but I just didn't. I don't know. I suppose I thought it was slightly superfluous.
I didn't mind it, but I agree with what you said. I didn't mind it because I think it's there to kind of exactly what you said, to be like, this is the familiar part, and then it like kind of like with the drone shot kind of goes like, oh, this isn't what we're doing. And I do like how the title comes up, like where she comes out of the water, and it's like, you know,
Yeah.
and I think that it's the right balance. I think I think though what this film does right, is that it's definitely like, I don't know, for me the reason why I like both the films, so the 2013 one and this one, is that, don't get me wrong, the old Evil Deads are fantastic in their own right, but I like how they're trying to give some weight to the characters. So I liked how in the 2013 one, you had the character who was trying to get over her drug addiction, so there was a reason why they wouldn't let her leave the cabin. Whereas in the old ones, you can kind of ask yourself, like, why didn't they just leave? I liked how in this one they have the two sisters dynamic.
Yeah, I suppose I would agree with that, but I have to say though, I mean, you're right. I do think the characters are drawn better than they were back in the day. But I still found it hard to really care about any of them, and I'm not sure why that is. I'm just sort of, I don't know. They're sort of like through the film, they're obviously like making up very creative ways to sort of kill and torture them, and that's fine. But I feel like a lot of the fear is lost because I'm just like I'm honestly not sure why I should care about. I mean, the kids especially. I'm just a bit like, we're only really sort of supposed to care about them because they're children and they're vulnerable in some way. And, you know, I suppose they're cool to some extent, but I'm just like, there's not really a reason for me to care necessarily. Sister's dynamic was pretty cool, and I was quite interested in that, but it's kind of, it was kind of lost in the sort of weird way they kind of shoehorned the theme of motherhood in, where they were sort of like trying to sort of have the main character's arc being that, oh, she's pregnant, she doesn't know what she's doing, and then she's suddenly forced to look after these kids, and try and like get them through the sort of the darkness. I thought that was slightly, I don't know, a bit contrived, and I wasn't entirely convinced by it. But it was, I don't know. I again, as I say, technically, I thought this was a great film. Like, just in terms of everything they did, sort of, you know, editing, sound wise, and the visuals and stuff. But I just couldn't really get into the characters necessarily. I actually think the monsters had more character than the family, which I think is it's good way round, I suppose. Like the mother monster, I think had even though it's kind of like, you know, shrouded in sort of horror mystery, it's kind of, you can't, it reminded me of those sort of like, it was like when what's his face, Ray Harryhausen, who did all the sort of the special effects for things like Jason and the Argonauts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, he talked about stuff like he wanted all the monsters to have characters of their own, so they had their own personalities in which to sort of interact with their heroes and make them more scary. I think it's a very similar case here, where I was more interested in the monsters than the family. I think,
yeah,
especially when it gets to that third act, which I think was very good, and when I mean, spoiler alert, I suppose, where they all sort of congregate together and form like a rat king of just Right, that is brilliant. I actually wonder if that's sort of partially inspired by Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think they did it very well, and it's a horrible image, and I think that's they is it Lee Cronin who directed? I think he, in terms of crafting images that sort of stay with you and just go crazy, I think he does very well. He does borrow a lot, which is fine. I mean, obviously the lift filled with blood and, you know, obvious homage to The Shining. There's a bit of Exorcist in there as well. But I think that's valid. I think that's fine.
I think as well, though, and this is just a personal opinion, but I would have preferred it if it had gone a bit more full in. I'm pretty biased on this, but I think the 2013 one actually is more out there. I love in this one how they have the Rat King sort of thing. My issue is, and I'm hoping because I really do want them to continue this, if they do another one, I'm hoping they go more out there and go more creative. And I know, like, you do have to find a fair balance, because you can't really do like what Evil Dead 2 did and make it so humorous, because then you kind of lose that very serious angle. But there are moments, I say there are moments, there's like a couple, like where one of my favorite moments in this one is where the mother, when she's been possessed by the dead eye, she like jumps on this guy and sucks his eye out and spits it into someone else's.
That was great. I enjoyed that.
Spits it into someone else's throat, and they end up choking on the eyeball. And it's like, and it's like, you can tell in that moment they're like, we'll add that in because it's like a nice little homage to when the eye goes in. I can't remember if it's from 1 or 2, when the eye goes into her mouth, and it, like, you see it fly across and all that. But it's like, for me, I'm like, go more in that direction. And it's tricky, because on one hand you have like the Rat King sort of thing, where it's like, this is really creative and yeah, do more of that. But I think as well they should lean with this next one a bit more into Evil Dead 2, where you have some of that crazy shit happen. I mean, one of my favorite scenes from Evil Dead 2 is where Ash cuts his arm off, and the hand has its own personality and it's like a little rat runs into the wall. And I know you risk then it being too slapstick, but I do think that there's leeway to be like, let's just go batshit crazy with it. Like, so I'm hoping if they do a third one with the third book, that they kind of go like, right, let's just go all out. I know they have talked about wanting to do multiple. I think another issue, not with this one, because I actually think they do a great job of the setting, but my issue is, where do you go from here? And I don't want it to become too stupid, where it's like, oh, we're on a cruise ship.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I wasn't totally convinced by the LA apartment setting. Really, I mean, it was an interesting take, but I was wondering about the other residents and what they were doing. And
they're all moving out, weren't they?
But
I suppose they're all moving out. Yeah, but
they give it such a thin like explanation.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, the building's getting demolished in, like, I think they say 2 weeks. And it's like, most people have already left. There's a couple of people on each of the floors or something, which I guess, like, you could argue, like, okay, like, I can personally let it slide, because I know that it's just like, I'm not going to sit there and think too far in. But I think that you can get away with it more when it's in a cabin. The only other setting I think they could do is, which I think would work, but it's how you do it, and I'd love to see it if it was pulled off, is a plane.
Be interesting.
I quite like the idea of that.
It would be interesting too, because it would be like, I'm just running with this idea now. Because you have to have the cockpit locked. It would be interesting to see like how the pilots would react to like what's going on. The plane. That'd be cool. I enjoy that.
And you could do like a big plane as well, so like you have like different sections of the plane.
I'm just thinking of the second Airplane movie.
Yeah,
it's just a massive space shuttle. But yeah, it's interesting with that setting as well, because I feel like, I mean, obviously they're inspired by The Shining, but there's a kind of, I feel like it's got very little character, that setting, and I feel like, in order to be convinced by the LA apartment as a setting, I think you need to be, I don't know, make it a sort of entity in itself. Because I feel like if the book was like buried in there, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like there should be a kind of, it should be a sort of beast on its own.
And I do agree as well, because I feel like with the originals and with the 2013 one, the cabin in itself is very much a character, and each room feels very unique. Like when the characters run through certain places, you're like, even the cellar. I'm still here.
Yeah, you're here. You're
Yeah. Everyone froze, and I was like, uh-oh. But I agree with you. For me, the issue, I think, with this one, and it's not like a big issue where it's like ruins the film at all, but I think that you're right in saying that, like, if we had explored the whole the whole flat, like the whole building, where then, like, you in your head, like, even having like shots of like the old locations where we've been, but it is very much boiled down to the apartment room, the hallway, and the Stella, like the car park.
Yeah, the garage. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and I guess you
still-
could say the
still-
elevator, but
It's
Yeah.
still in that cabin in the woods kind of feel, isn't it? Keeping everything tight.
Oh,
it's,
yeah,
it's,
I
it's,
just-
it's
I
the
feel
monster
like
in
they
the
could have
house
branched.
sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the monster in the house kind of dynamic, I suppose. But yeah, you're right. It's sort of, and I feel like that those, again, as I say, the apartments weren't really characterful. They're more sort of like, I suppose, stylistic backdrop, or just like creative backdrop. I suppose it's like, oh,
Yeah.
this would look cool with it, instead of like giving itself its own entity. It was just a way to sort of support what was going on.
And an example, I know they're two completely different films, and they really are so far apart. But like, you look at Die Hard and how it utilizes the building, where it's like different, you think about it and you go like, oh yeah, there's a whole level where it's under construction. There's a whole level where it's very much really nice, pristine offices. Then you have the roof, the what's it called? Air ducts and all that.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like this one,
There was
there's
more
a
Home
lot.
Alone 2, wasn't it?
Home Alone 2. That's another thing. I do on the third time watching this, I found it quite funny, and I know that it's like a rule in filmmaking and writing, especially, where like Chekhov's gun, where if you suggest something, it's got to be used. Like, it's got to show up in the third act, sort of thing. But I found it quite funny. If you rewatch it, in that first act, so many characters will just say things because it needs to be set up. Like, there's the best example is there's a scene where the two sisters are in the hallway and they're looking for the children because they've gone out to get pizza as the earthquake has happened. And you've got this guy who's introduced, and he's there like, oh, we'll hop in my car, we'll go and find them. But then this other character just smoking a cigarette comes out, is like, cat in the vent. Yeah, it makes some noise in the vent, doesn't it? Yeah. Who are you? You're the sister. See you later. And you're like, oh, I wonder if the air ducts will come into play with the cat. And it's like just little things like that. Or like, with the records, it's like the first scene we see is him DJing. It's like, whoa, I love my records. I just love my records. And you're like, I wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah, I suppose they need to build a kind of a reason why he would have a vinyl player. I suppose, sort of modern era. I mean, it's interesting reading about. I sort of read an interview with Conan that it was almost like, in terms of like the characters and like the sort of what they're into and stuff, was almost like a devotion to the fan base of Evil Dead, which is largely sort of heavy metal fans, and that kind of musical angle was like part of inspiration for why they were such a musical family, and why there was that kind of sort of is quite interesting. But I agree, it's easy to set up. But I suppose you can understand, because they're just they're trying to keep it within that sort of textbook 90-minute runtime, and they're probably just trying to like cover everything. But you're right, it's quite quite obvious from that point of view.
Shall we ask Jess what she thinks?
Yes.
Yeah, obviously you know what I think. I think it's amazing. So Jess.
It was all right.
Thoughts?
I agree with you, and I think technically it was very good. Audio, sound, like music was all very good. It was shot really well. I did think there was one shot towards the end that felt really out of place. They did the whole like, was it where the camera's attached to the body and she's running to get the child, and it's just her face while she's running? That felt so out of place because I hadn't used anything like that previously in the film, and it was such a short shot as well. But yeah, and I think with the characters as well, the characters lacked character. There was no reason for you to really kind of want them to survive or kind
I
of
disliked
care.
all of them.
Yeah,
Literally all of them.
there was like no backstory really to any of them. And the kid choking on the eyeball did make me laugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of I'll have to watch it again. I did look away during the scenes that were in the trailer that I couldn't watch, which was like the cheese grater and the tattoo pen with the eye. Yeah, I kind of was just like, no, thank you. But yeah,
I was
It was
wondering
good.
about. Yeah, sorry, I was just wondering about the cheese grater, because I mean Lawrence's favorite movie of all time, for no reason, Tenet, also features a cheese grater attack scene. I'm just wondering if that's going to be a trend in movies now, where it's just going to be, you know, action heroes armed with cheese graters, just like.
You know how it came about. You know how it came about as well.
Ooh.
Someone was like writing and then just literally like was like, "Shit, I need to make myself some food." Got the cheese grater. Was like, "Hold on a minute."
Hold on a minute.
Calls up all the execs, just like, "Here's the cheese grater."
See, my main point is that I loved the beginning of this film. Absolutely loved it. I thought when I was sat in the cinema, I was like, I went with my dad, Jess's granddad, and I was like, is this something else? Or, you know, because it's only an hour and a half long, and yeah, what an experience. I just loved it the whole way through. The experience at home when I watched it in 4K and that wasn't, it was okay, but it's, you know, you've seen it all before and you're just looking for like Easter eggs and stuff like that. But
I can imagine it was a better experience at the cinema as well.
Cinema experience, I thought it was amazing. And I've been to the cinema a lot lately as well. So that was my favourite, I think, for the year. But if I was to rate, because highly entertaining, kept me engaged. The characters could have been better, I think. I quite like the boy, the DJ. I thought he was quite interesting. The girl, I couldn't stand her. I don't know what was going on there.
But which one? Which girl?
The middle child or the oldest child. Not the little one. The little one didn't do a lot other than squeal a bit. And the pregnant lady, I just thought she was pretty much pathetic, really. Although she was meant to be a roadie or whatever, I just found her quite boring, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so I'd give it an 8. Jess?
Probably a 7.
That's pretty good for you.
Yeah.
What did you give Larry's horseshit film from?
Probably a 3.
10 out of 10. That's by.
That's one on the horseshit list.
Still book.
At the end of the year.
What did you give it, Ewan? I'm interested.
It was either 8 or 9. I actually I said about the film that it's one of the best films it's one of the best films I've seen that I wouldn't want to watch again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was my assessment. But I still thought it was an amazing film.
It just made me sad.
I'll give it a 9 as well, so that bumps up its score.
I might change mine down a little bit then.
1.
I've got to bump mine up.
After 4,
15.
I'll give it a semi. That's it. So,
20 plus.
What are you gonna give this, Larry?
I'm gonna stick with my same score. I think I put it in the WhatsApp group chat when I first watched it, which is an 8. I think.
And Evil Dead 8 as well.
Oh well, no, sorry, 9 for the Speak No Evil.
Yeah.
8 for Evil Dead Rise. I just like if they do an extended version, because I do think that there's a lot.
They probably would. Yeah, I would have thought they would.
I feel as though there's some things that they've obviously cut out. Maybe like just the very maybe like. Oh, maybe like I don't know. I don't want to say over the top, but like bits that there's bits that I feel like okay, this is probably being cut down. However, you know, I think that for me personally, the 2013 one, and I mean the extended, you can go watch our podcast where we talk about that.
Yeah, go listen to it. It's got 25,000 views. Go and listen to that one.
I feel like that to me was a really well done. I don't know, like. Not everyone thinks this, which is fair, but I think like it's a very well done Evil Dead reimagining where it's like, you know, let's get a new audience in, and let's bring back some of the fans of the old one to to like it. I think this is a great new step in a direction. I think it is really, really good. I do just think that it's toned down a little. And so I'm hoping that if they continue it,
What did you think of The Hole in the Ground? Just while I'm... Did you ever watch that?
That's by the same director, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ridley Cronin.
Yeah, I own it. I like it a lot.
Is
it's about a hole in the ground.
That's not the one set at the church, is it, that we were talking about, right?
No, it's some woman. Is it in Ireland? Just trying to remember. And her son goes out in the woods and finds a big old hole in the ground. Yeah, and I won't give too much away if you haven't seen it because it's very good.
It doesn't sound familiar.
Hence why he got this job, I expect.
Yeah,
that's good.
Well, I was looking at his sort of IMDb. A lot of his films aren't rated very well, which intrigues me because I
wonder how they get the job. You know.
Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi had both said that what they do is they kind of scout people who aren't very well known, but also they look at their like the creativity. Like again with the 2013, I forget his name, I can't remember his name, the director of the 2013 one, but basically he had done a YouTube series which was very much like, you know, heavy on CGI, and it was robots, I think, attacking a city.
Right.
And I think Bruce Campbell or Sam Raimi, I can't remember, I think it was Bruce Campbell, had happened upon it and was just like, oh, this is a really good cohesive story and there's so much creativity. So they had a meeting with him, and obviously he's there like, yeah, you know, of course I'll do that. Which I like that though, because I don't know. I like the idea if you get a fresh take, even if it's not like the greatest. I like the idea of bringing someone fresh in.
Send them some of your stuff, Larry. I'd love to see a Larry directed Evil Dead. I think that would be amazing.
Here's my pitch.
Yeah.
On a plane.
On a plane.
Yeah, on a plane.
No snake. No snakes. Right?
No. I think you could do a lot with that, to be fair.
How about in a prison?
Prison would be interesting.
Prison would be a good one.
But didn't they what's it? Well, I haven't seen it, but the second Quarantine film, didn't they?
Yeah, that was
apparently that was terrible.
But I feel like the reason why I think a plane set, I mean, prison setting is really good as well. But I think that, again, a plane setting is, there are loads of films that do zombies on a plane. But they're like, you know, your typical just running down the aisle and you get trapped. Whereas I feel like an Evil Dead film, you could really
on a train
have it on a plane, on a train, on a bus.
On a bus, that'd be great. In a taxi,
in an Uber,
submarine. Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think, then, Ewan? What are you rating it? That first watch for you?
Yeah, it's a first watch for me. It's might be a bit harsh, but I will give it a 6, just because I enjoyed especially the fact that it was largely practical. It looked very practical effects. I enjoyed the sort of the fact that I hadn't seen a lot of it before in terms of like what they were trying to do. A lot of the brutality, I hadn't seen anything. It didn't feel like too cliched from a sort of visual perspective, but I just couldn't, like with a lot of the Evil Deads, it's a wafer thin plot, and that's fine as long as the characters are good, and you can get away with it, at least in my view. You can get away with it with the first Evil Dead because that was almost a kind of gonzo filmmaking kind of situation. It's enjoyable because it's not that good, but it's good for the amount of money which they. So I think from that point of view, it's good. But when you've got a raised budget, which you can do a whole lot more stuff, I think they kind of. But then again, because I'm not a fan of the Evil Dead, it's not really a thing which is made specifically for me. So, and a lot of people who like the Evil Dead really like this film, and they said it was like a return to form. I mean, a lot of people didn't like the 2013 remake, and a lot of those people say that this was a return to form from before. But I just can't get over the fact that I don't care about these characters getting killed. It's just it's just that, again, left over from the 80s, where it's just like entering a bloodbath, which is fine, and there's an audience for that. But I after like 20 minutes, I'm just like, okay, more blood, and then it gets sort of and you know, they do make it exciting. They do keep it exciting. I did like the third act, as I say, but you know, there's the whole middle bit which I was just like, not really. And it takes a while as well, before like after the prologue's done and we get to the apartment and they introduce the characters. It's a while before we see much happening, and even then, it's kind of it's a 6 from me.
To add to your point as well, I feel as though in the horror genre, not in every film, but especially with like Evil Dead, is you go in and you're like, who's going to bite the dust, really? Like you sorry, not who's going, but you're like, the characters are going to get fucked up and they're going to like do some pretty crazy shit. But what I equally think, which I think it's a positive, but it's also a negative, is that with this one especially, you've got this family dynamic, but you go into it going, well, you're fucked, you're fucked, you're fucked, and you instantly go like, well, you're safe, and you're safe. And I feel as though like they need to not spice it up a bit, but I feel like a bit more of a mystery would be nice, to be like, oh, I like you said, like, I give a shit about this character. I really don't want them to get, oh shit, they actually did get. Whereas at the moment, it's a positive and a negative because it's done very well. But I would like, similar to what you're saying, I'd like to go in being like, oh, I hope all of these characters make it out. Whereas at the moment, it's just like, shut up, die.
That's a good name for a movie. Shut up and die.
Shut up and die.
So, okay, so what score that is? About 7 or 8, isn't it? This, you were 8, weren't you? 8.
Yeah.
8, yeah. Well, it's well liked. I love it, and we'll watch it many more times. There's no Dan on here tonight, I don't think. I'm still waiting for a Dan's hot pick, but one day. So, do you want a trailer pick tonight?
Sure.
I saw one of the trailers as I came in.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm going to go. There's a trailer pick that seemed quite interesting, and you guys probably know a bit more about it than I do. But
I know
anyway.
which one this is.
Okay.
Oh, you bastards! Why are you torturing me like this? Why?
Right. I've got this trailer, and it's called Dear David, the film. Is it the one you're thinking of, Larry?
Literally, as I came into the podcast, you were playing it.
Right. Apparently, there was Dear David was a Twitter thread created by BuzzFeed writer Adam Ellis, in which he describes his encounter with a ghost.
I be on the internet.
Alice, engaging with trolls is like the worst possible use of your energy.
Me and my internet friends, we be sipping.
Since you joined BuzzFeed, your art got super lame.
And you die in a fire. Don't judge me. Sometimes you gotta troll the trolls. Why is you all up in my mentions? Wow.
Inspired by actual events.
Sure.
Do you know how to find out who this handle belongs to?
You really think a weird account is haunting your apartment?
Dear David. He was only 10 when his mother went insane.
Linda, it's Dr. Landers.
This is not my son!
He is your son, and you put him in a coma.
Oh my God.
Dr. Landers?
What?
So, that looked quite interesting to me.
Yeah, it looked all right.
It is some guys having Twitter kind of or whatever relationship with someone, you know, trolling each other, and then it becomes a bit spooky, I think.
I thought this was the I might be getting another story mixed up, but if it is the story I'm thinking of, then I wish they would have just done it how the story was told, because that has added in a lot of.
I don't
obviously,
know the story. Do you know?
Well,
Do you know the story then?
Well, I think I'm getting too mixed up, but it seems like it's the exact same beat for beat. So there's the story of where the guy in real life had I can't remember I don't know if he was a comic book artist, but he had wrote something and got a message saying "Dear David."
Yeah.
But then he had a nightmare where there was a kid at the bottom of his bed, and then someone had wrote to him like, "Oh, if you see the kid at the end of your bed, don't ask him a question." And it was like in the sentence, it's "Dear David," and in one of his nightmares, he had a recurring nightmare of it, and in one of them, was like, "Oh, he replied," and then that's when he thought his house was haunted. But at the same time, if I'm getting the story correct, a lot of people were like, "Oh, you're manifesting this yourself, like you've hyped yourself up too much, and you're scared of it, so that's why you're now think your house is haunted." But then he would like post loads of videos up, and it became like a constant trend where like his cats would go crazy at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night, like could see like stuff under his door. And then it's like one of those urban legend things, like where people think he was just a troll, where it was like for attention, but at the same time people are like, "Oh my god, it's so true." I don't know if it's the same story, but
It sounds
looks
exactly
similar.
the same. There's definitely a boy at the end of his bed in that trailer further on.
It's interesting though, because it reminds me of a lot of I mean, horror's done this, I think, for at least 10 years now, where they've tried to broach the sort of darkness of the internet and social media and stuff like that. There are some entertaining examples, like Unfriended, which I don't think is a very good movie, but it's sort of like moderately entertaining.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I was sort of thinking about this because I remember, I don't know, maybe after university, I was trying to write my own sort of book about like the horrors of like in the internet and stuff like that, and I found myself coming to quite a sort of a block, because I realized that all the actual darknesses of the internet are so much worse than anything I can think up. And I think that's what movies, at least movies that tackle or horror movies that tackle social media, don't exactly get right. Because I mean, firstly, they won't be able to do the kind of thing which, you know, if you go in the actual dark web are actually sort of capable of. And I think everyone is aware of like all the horrible stuff that appears on the internet. So it kind of does, at least at this point, it doesn't really work. That's kind of internet horror thing. I mean, it reached its worst point, I think, with that with the Slender Man movie. Did you ever see that?
Yeah,
maybe one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But yeah, so maybe this one will be good. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I'll give it a go. Right. Oh, shall we move on to what we watched this week?
What have you been watching?
No, seriously, what have you been watching?
So we do ours, Jess, first.
Yeah.
We went off to the cinema yesterday.
Something wrong with your audio.
Yeah.
We can't hear you.
Hello?
You're
Hello?
better. Yeah.
Okay, so yesterday, Jess and I went to a lunchtime screening of Cobweb. Does anyone know? Has anyone seen it?
I haven't seen it. Is that the Korean movie?
No.
No.
Oh, Korean
So
movie. No.
I will put on a trailer.
Oh
Just
god.
need
Goodbye, guys. EDM.
It's okay. It was just a bad dream.
That's great.
I heard it again.
No more nightmares tonight.
Good.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi, yeah.
Daddy!
This is getting ridiculous.
All right.
This is an old house. There's bound to be bumps in the night.
I recognise her.
Yeah, she's from Cloverfield.
Cloverfield, yeah.
I
I
had
think she
to
was
Google
also.
both of them yesterday. I couldn't clock either of them. I can't believe I didn't clock who Homeland was. His hair's not blonde. I'm putting it down to that.
I
yeah.
think she was in a series called Fleischman's in Trouble, which is a really good series that came out earlier this year.
So, Cobweb, an 18-year-old boy tries to investigate the mysterious knocking sounds that are coming from inside the walls of his house, unveiling a dark secret that his sinister parents have kept hidden. It's got a twist, this film. We saw it coming, Jess.
You almost revealed it there.
Yeah.
I was going to say, now I know the parents are doing it.
Shit!
Wow. But are they?
I think so.
I really enjoyed this film to a point. There were certain elements that were great, others that were
funny.
Yeah. Sorry.
Does it have a cobweb?
Not
There's
really.
many cobwebs.
Yeah, there's cobwebs. But,
towards the end.
Yeah, but it's not really. I don't know why it's called Cobweb, really, other than there is a spider in it.
There's a spider in it.
Just the
There's
one.
a spider for a short period.
Just the one.
Gordon.
I think there were some others throughout, but I don't know. I couldn't work out. I've read somewhere that they were trying to say there were supernatural elements to this, but they've left it open, which they definitely have left it open. I don't know if it's supernatural or not.
I think the supernatural elements are more just in the dream
Why is
sequence.
that door's closed on his own?
I don't know.
It closed on its own, didn't it? You know that.
The doors were. It was in the dreams that he was having that I thought.
So I think what we're getting from this is that there's no supernatural elements. The parents have done it, and someone's knocking on the
Done
wall.
what?
Done what?
This is
What
like when you
done?
see. This is like when
They've
you see
hidden
some of
a
those-
boy or something in the wall.
This is like when you see those discussions, like on YouTube comments under a video that's like, oh, well, how did the door close on its own? And they go through this whole conversation. It's like, well,
Which
it's
is
closed.
the Australian film was that comedy kind of that there's a woman and she's got to stay in her house instead of going to prison, and then there's someone else living in the house. Have you seen that one? It's very funny. I can't remember the name of it, but it's similar.
To find out it's just a real story.
There's someone living in the wall.
Right.
So, I enjoyed it. It was kind of National Cinema Day or something yesterday, and it was like £3 to get in.
Oh, nice.
I booked it up nice and early, and I had fun with it. Jess, did you?
Yeah, no, I quite liked it. I actually quite liked this, like the actual story of it.
The acting was good. Some of the scenes were amazing.
Yeah.
It was shot well.
Mm-hmm.
You'd hate it, Larry, which makes me smile.
Well, I'm confused as to like when I first watched that trailer, I was thinking like, oh, it's gonna go for like a supernatural, and then I think both of you have just confirmed that there's no supernatural element, and the parents are up to something.
I think it is.
It's a sex dungeon.
I think it is. There's elements of it that makes me think it is definitely
I was gonna say
actually. That's a twist.
What's that?
It was all a dream. It's just one big dream sequence.
Oh God, can you imagine?
Well,
can you
yeah.
imagine?
I mean, just remembering back to our second year at uni.
That's what I mean.
It's a dream.
It's a dream.
I'll do a couple of quick ones that I've done. So I went to see. It was my son's birthday, same day as Jess's, and we went to see The Haunted Mansion, and that was fun for a Disney film. I thought it was fine. It was funny. To my wife, it was proper horror. Do you know what I mean?
It's a weird one, the sort of hype around that, because I didn't realize there was a whole sort of following around the sort of original.
Isn't it a ride or something, or some.
I don't know, but there was. I can't remember who starred in the original Haunted Mansion, but I remember watching it on DVD, I don't know, when I was like 12.
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy, yeah. I remember watching it. I was just like, okay, fine. And then like all these years later, there's like a remake, and I'm just like, what? Really?
I'm surprised. I'm surprised as well they released it when they did. Like I would have thought that they would have waited till like Halloween to
Yeah.
really like
Yeah,
be like,
true.
oh, Disney's
True.
haunted mansion, but instead it's like
There's a lot of
summer.
Because that would be really good as well to capitalize on the younger audience to bring them
that's
into
what
the
that's what I was
horror
thinking.
title. Yeah,
But
There
instead
is
they're
a
like summer.
lot of horror films
Yeah,
at the moment. A kind of unusual amount. We've got Nun 2 next week, haven't we? There's
yeah, the 8th of September.
There's a Haunting in Venice coming out, I think, next week.
That's not a horror film. It's
No?
not a horror film.
It looks
That's,
like a horror. They're selling it that way.
Agatha Christie. It's an Agatha Christie adaptation.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because they showed it as
the trailer looks like a horror.
Yeah, all the trailers were horrors, and they showed that one.
That's a Agatha Christie.
Yeah, it's a murder mystery thing.
Yeah,
but I mean, I haven't read it, so it might have elements of horror to it.
It does have elements, but I mean, spoilers. Agatha Christie never
so
really
it's
goes.
not.
It's a ghost.
I won't go see that then.
Unless
the
you
other one
subscribe to Doctor Who, in which case it was a giant wasp.
Giant wasp, yes. Classic episode.
Earlier on today.
Now I know the whole film.
It's a giant wasp.
I'm lucky to be here today because I got stung about 2 hours ago by a bumblebee. I didn't see it other than when it was on the floor, but it was probably the worst pain I've ever had.
God.
It was horrible. It was like someone was burning my arm with a blowtorch. It was literally.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh at your pain. It's just I love.
It was absolutely. It's gone down now, but I didn't see it until I spotted it on the floor when I come back in. But it was horrible. So, fuck you, Bumblebee.
He's dead now.
He passed away. Yeah, he passed away.
Passed away. I love it. Yeah.
I took him outside because it was horrible.
Well, he was in trouble. He had to take him outside.
Yeah.
Well, also a common misconception. All bees are female, actually, except for some bees, which are male. So you got stung by essentially
a queen.
You might. Well, actually, no. I don't know. You might be stung by a male.
It was big.
I had found out in a quiz recently that most bees are female.
Yeah, it's just bloody great thing.
Take that to the bank.
Well, I thought they were solitary things. These bumblebees.
Solitary. I mean, they're famously not solitary, are they? They
but
have
this
a
is
hive.
a bumblebee, not a honeybee. A bloody great.
Oh right, okay.
Bumblebee.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Jesus, Ewan.
Jesus,
know the difference.
Fucking hell. Right, the other one. I haven't got a video for this either, but I watched. There's a few films that have been arriving. So Bogeyman, whatever you want to call it. That's next week's film, by the way. So I watched another one that got delivered was The Pope's Exorcist, which I loved.
Russell Crowe, in it?
I loved it. It was so good. Can you imagine Gladiator fucking fighting evil? You know, it was really good. I have to admit that it kept me engaged. Loads. It was just like another Exorcist film. That's what it felt like.
And there it is, another. Exorcist
but it could have
film.
been if you had put Exorcist 4 with Russell Crowe in it. It would have worked. It was the same thing. So it was.
And that's a positive thing, is it?
It was definitely a positive.
I haven't seen Exorcist 4, so I don't know.
No, there is no Exorcist 4. That's what I'm saying. So
if
they put Exorcist 4, the Pope's Exorcist, amazing. But I loved it. We'll watch it again. I'm surprised you haven't seen it, Ewan. I'm surprised you haven't.
I'm not.
Because Ewan goes to see a lot of films, and this might have been the kind of one I thought he would see. And The Haunted Mansion, to be honest.
Haunted Mansion, I'm surprised about, but like at the same time, I'm not surprised with.
I mean, the thing is with my job is that it tends to be sort of specific movies. I occasionally manage to negotiate a horror film every now and then, but it's mainly if it's like an indie horror movie. Like I managed to get to review Talk to Me a few weeks ago because that was like an A24 horror film.
Yeah, we did that, didn't we?
Yeah,
I really liked that.
It was.
That surprises me, Larry.
I thought it was. I'm more surprised that you liked it. You call A24 most of their films quite what's the word?
Shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was quite surprised, but I love the story behind how they got that made. I love it. Like the two YouTubers who were going to take it to a big company, and then they were literally like, no, made it themselves, or saved.
I liked it.
Money.
I liked it.
And then A24 obviously bought it, and it's confirmed to have a sequel now.
Well, it got really, really popular when it came out. So
yeah, I think it's a great film. I think it handles. I think a lot of horror films really. I mean, you touched upon this. Sorry to go on a tangent, but you touched upon this a little bit. But where horror films nowadays with the internet or with social media, they don't get it of how people actually act. Like you'll have like people who are like, you got horror films where it's like, whoa, don't open this app or it'll kill you, and you're just like, oh, shut up. Whereas Talk to Me, I think, does a really good job of actually a culture where it's like, oh, this is a trend, and building upon that.
But I feel like they didn't build upon it enough, and maybe that's what they can do with a sequel. But I feel like they did that all in like the first act, and then they kind of like veered away from it afterwards. Because I really like that. Sorry, again, going with this tangent. I really like the sort of the first act where a lot of it is lit by the like sort of iPhone torchlights and stuff like that. I thought that was quite evocative in a weird way, because it's sort of being confronted by like the horrors of technology, but it's also visually quite scary as well. But I thought it was okay. I suppose I wasn't really caught up in the hype of it, but yeah,
I liked it. I saw it with my son. But there's one more thing, and then we can move on to you guys. I've been playing a game called From the Darkness. This game's about, I would say, an hour long. Only about 2 hours, obviously.
Can't see shit.
No, you can't see a lot in this game, obviously. That's Darkness again.
Oh, hello. Looks a bit like PT.
Thought that was Comic Sans then. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, it looks a bit like PT to me.
Yeah.
This game, yeah. You go into a tower block. You're meant to be going to a room, a flat, to do something, but it's locked up. You can't get in there. So you knock this other door. You end up in this flat, apartment building, and you can't really get out again, and it goes dark a lot, and candles, and nothing really happens, but it's very good. So I recorded those, and I put all 3 episodes of me wandering around on our YouTube channel, and anyone can go on the Bones Horror Pod. They can go and watch them on there, and I even put some shorts out. So
I did like some of those shorts. Your reactions are quite funny, I have to say.
So I put them out there. So it was literally, should have taken an hour, this game. I think it took me 2 hours, because there's quite a lot of puzzles in it, and I'm not the quickest thinker sometimes. So it took me twice as long to work out what's going on, but I had a lot of fun with it. The other game I've been playing is Sons of the Forest. So I've been mucking around with that on my PC. Now I can play games again on my computer. It's nice. So if anyone out there wants to play Sons of the Forest with me, give me a shout on Steam.
I think we should all play the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre game.
It's on Xbox. I think I've got it downloaded already. I haven't opened it up yet.
It's on Game Pass. Sorry, Ian. It's on Game Pass.
So can you play that on... You got PC, yeah? Can you do that?
You can play it on your PlayStation, but I think you have to. I don't think it's on PlayStation Store.
I don't know. Well, I'll see about it and see what's.
I'm looking forward to the 6th of September, because Starfield comes out.
Yeah, mine's ready to go.
Sorry, Ewan.
Well, you have to tell me what it's like, because I'm always skeptical nowadays about open world stuff, because it feels like a lot of open world games that have come out, a lot of them have been really good, but a lot of them have also been like panned because they haven't sorted stuff out. I'm mainly thinking about Cyberpunk, I guess, but
I'm interested to play it, because obviously there's a lot of hype around it. But I think that for me, I've been a huge fan of No Man's Sky. And I think No Man's Sky, obviously, when it first came out, it was...
Yeah, that was another example where it apparently got good after it
had
like loads of updates.
When it first came out, it was, for better of a word, dog shit. Like they had promised so much that you could do. Yeah, it was literally broken. All the planets were the same. You couldn't do multiplayer, but fair play to them, because most people would just be like, "Oh, it's a dead game now. Give up on it." But they've stuck with it, and now it's hugely popular. So I'm interested to see what this game Starfield's going to be like to No Man's Sky. And I've already seen one review which is like, oh, if you think it's going to be a No Man's Sky sort of game, it's like you're not. It's a very like Skyrim-esque sort of game, you know, like role.
That's another thing. That's another thing that slightly annoys me. And I know it's good that Bethesda are doing new games, and that's what they should do as a company and whatever. But
we want Skyrim.
New Elder Scrolls game, please. Yeah. That's not fucking online, which I remember I played about 45 minutes ago. I was like, this is shit.
It looked like Elite. It looked like Elite Dangerous in the sky, and then in space, and then you know, what's it called?
Well, I know the one you're thinking of.
Yeah, so it. And I like Elite Dangerous, but it reminded me of that, like when you're flying about up in space.
Do you mean No Man's Sky or Starfield?
No, Starfield.
Yeah. I mean, I don't.
No Man's Sky is quite basic. I found it quite repetitive after a while.
Have you played it recently?
No, not for probably a year.
I would just jump back on and see what you think, because they've made it quite. They've made it decent, in my opinion. I think it's a very good game. But no, just to what you were saying, Jan, they've announced last week that they've started early development on. But they've said that we'll be waiting like up to 5 to 6 years.
Well, apparently,
it'll be Xbox only, will it?
Well, no, I don't think so.
But you imagine.
But I saw a release, and this is from like Unilag Games or something, which, you know, how reliable can they be? But they said it might be 2026, the release for Elder Scrolls 6.
I don't think it will.
But it's still, even if that were the case, it still pisses me off that they released a trailer for it in 2018.
Yeah,
for Elder Scrolls, and you know, it's been. And obviously they've been doing that thing which fucking Rockstar did as well, where they just they had their focus completely on the online stuff, which is fine, and that's where you make your money. But I just want a non-online, offline thing where I'm just like want to be completely immersed without people screaming in my ears, you know. But yeah, that's Bethesda rant over.
No, but I agree. It's not just Bethesda though. Like I've been waiting for at least some form of you know, I mean, there was all that leaked stuff for GTA 6.
Yeah.
Which, from what I saw, looked incredible. Like, it was very early, but and it's not just like Unilad, but it's any gaming Bible. All of them are like, whoa! Did you see that GTA 6 the map is leaked? And you're like, what? And then you click it, and it's like, and then you read it, it's just like, someone thought they saw the map. We can't confirm it, and you're just like, fuck off.
Just the masters of clickbait.
So
anyway, the worst ones are Red Dead 2. The worst ones are for Red Dead 2, because Red Dead 2, obviously, everyone wants Undead Nightmare 2. And then they'll post something and say, like, we finally got Undead Nightmare 2. And all you have to do is click the comments, and someone, thank God for them, someone always in the top comments goes, oh, fuck off. No, don't worry, guys, it's a mod.
So we're hour 10 minutes in, nearly. Jess, have you watched anything this week?
Not this week, but I did on my holiday. There were some really good films on the TV when I was on holiday. So
Jess went on a cruise.
Yeah. I did. I went on a cruise to Norway, and it was really good. Norway's amazing. I want to go back. But yeah, I rewatched a bunch of Marvel films because Shane hadn't seen them, and it was annoying me that he hadn't seen them, so he was forced to watch them. And then there was a film that popped up called The Night House.
Not The Lighthouse, because that's a load of horseshit.
I'm glad someone's seen it.
That's that one we reviewed it on here, I think, didn't we?
Lighthouse. I think I've seen
that. Yeah, we reviewed it on here, didn't we?
Did we?
The night.
I could have sworn.
Paranormally, where the woman
Yeah.
husband's killed himself and she doesn't know why.
And
Yes,
she sees
I remember.
across. She sees across a lake.
Yes.
The lake.
I remember liking
Okay, well,
The
I
other
wasn't.
house.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
liking it.
Oh, I wasn't here
Well,
that episode then.
Yeah, I remember
I-
that.
The
It's
only reason I
88%
remember.
rotten.
I think
Yeah.
because it's like all to do with dreams and stuff, isn't it? Or a lot
And
to do
she
with
can
dreams.
Yeah.
see. She can see like
Yeah.
the other place, like, and it's like.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is it
Sorry. As soon
Jessica
as you said
Biel?
it.
Is it Jessica Biel?
No, it's
No, not Biel.
It's her from
Rebecca Hall.
Godzilla versus Kong.
Rebecca Hall. Rebecca
Yeah.
Hall. Yeah.
Yeah, she Shane kept saying she looked like the woman from Haunting of Hill House.
Mm.
And at first,
That's it.
he was convinced it was her. I was like, it's
No,
not
it's
her.
not.
But I can see why. But yeah, that was a odd film. Still not sure how I feel about it.
Mm.
Shot well, but
I didn't
very
like
odd.
it. I don't think.
It's a good one.
And then Cobweb, obviously, watched yesterday, and you know my opinion of that. I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Ewan?
Well, I'll just say one. I actually watched it today. There's a new series on BBC called The Woman in the Wall.
Sounds like
which is-
Cobweb.
Yeah,
Fuck's
yeah.
sake.
But more people in walls, yeah. But it's a new kind of sort of psychological horror series, which the BBC don't do many of, but this was quite good. There's only the third episode comes out tonight. I've only seen the first two, but it stars Ruth Wilson from
Oh yeah.
Luther, His Dark Materials. Very, very good actor. She basically plays a woman.
Is that the one in Stella?
Huh?
Is that the one in Stella?
Stella.
Yeah. Is that a woman you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Sorry.
Is her name Stella?
Stella,
No.
stupid Welsh program. Yeah, it was fun though.
Oh, problem. But it's set in Ireland, or in a fictional town in Ireland, and it's about the Magdalene Laundries, which is a horrible sort of institutional sort of practice where sort of Catholic nuns and priests would sort of separate mothers from their babies and put them through kind of slave labor conditions and stuff to sort of help their church run, so to speak. And it was uncovered fairly recently, I think. But it's basically a kind of psychological horror based in that kind of backstory. And Ruth Wilson plays a mother whose baby was taken away, and she's a sleepwalker, and she's kind of psychologically traumatized by everything that's going on. And then she suddenly finds a dead woman in her house, and she isn't sure if it's her. She is quite confused about that. And then the premise kind of comes in where a detective is investigating the murder of a local priest. And these two come together and the Magdalene Laundries is somehow involved. It's a really atmospheric, interesting series so far. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. I think they're just setting up so far, but it's a really sort of enticing. It's quite weird at times, and I think that's what Ruth Wilson does best, is when she's not only dark but weird. And I think that's kind of the basis for a lot of the characters that she does. I mean, especially in Luther, where she plays a quite an entertaining psychopath. And she's sort of really good at it. And there's that kind of same vibe, but she's very sympathetic in this. I think that's a good line to go through. I think the next episode is broadcast tonight, so I might try and watch that tonight at some point. But no, this series I'm quite enjoying so far.
Nice. Barry.
I have. That's my voice.
Barry?
That really got me. I was like, the fuck is that? I've been watching Parks and Rec.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's not seen it.
She's not okay.
I love it.
Did you do what I tend to recommend to people, which is skip the first season and just go in? Did you do? Okay, good.
Yeah,
that's a good
skip
idea.
The first season. I literally just said, this is what you've missed. I mean, it's quite good though, because when you start season 2, it gives you a recap anyway.
So yeah,
so yeah, we've been watching that. Ironically, it was quite funny. Before I go on to that, I also showed Rhea Sathora.
Sathora. That's the kind of sort of. I remember watching that at the cinema. That's kind of like clearly sort of climbing on the back of Jumanji, but kind of having its own.
It's the book. It's the sequel to Jumanji. It's the book.
Well, I don't know.
There's a book series. It's Jumanji, Sathora, and then there's another one that
You're
has a really
saying
weird
this like
name.
it's obvious, Lawrence.
It is obvious. It's a board game that comes to life. That would just be clearly ripping it.
Well, that's my point. I think a lot of people, I mean, even me, I didn't realize it's connected at all. So I think maybe a lot of people thought the same.
So an interesting tidbit is that in the book, when they in the film Jumanji, similar to the book, they drop Jumanji off and it's left at a beach. But in the book, it's picked up by the two brothers in Sathora who live next door to Peter and Judy. So yeah, take that to the bank as well.
I
I
seen that
love
film
it.
in years.
It's similar to what, like I can't remember how it came up. I think we were watching something else and it popped up on Amazon Prime, or like it got recommended, like Sathora, and my brain instantly went like, "Oh, that's a bang! That's such a good film." I was like, "Yeah." So I asked Rhea if she'd seen it because she's watched Jumanji, and she's like, "No." I was like, "Oh, well, you're gonna love this one." And yeah, it was a really. I think it's just a fun movie. Like it's similar to Jumanji. Like it's just fun. Not the newer Jumanjis. They can go suck a dick.
Just Jumanji in space, basically.
Yeah. It's a shame what they've done to that franchise. I should say franchise. It's a shame what they've done. But yeah, and then ironically, when we were all messaging each other and we were talking about Christopher Nolan films, I was ironically watching Tenet.
Oh, of course you were. Of course you were.
Yeah.
And were you showing Rhea, or were you just watching it?
Rhea's already seen it, but it came up on Prime. It came up on Prime, and I was like, it was so funny though because it popped up on Prime, and Rhea has only seen it once, so we were just like, obviously I'm there, like, yeah, fucking put Tenet on.
Yeah.
Rhea was like, you know what, fuck it, we'll put it on. It's been a while, so we put it on, and it was just so funny because I think about for the midway point, your message came through, and I was just like, "This is so funny."
I was watching Interstellar.
You were watching Interstellar, and I was watching Tenet, and it was just so funny though because as we were like listing them off and like what because I had this conversation with Rhea recently in that I think me personally one of the best films that Christopher Nolan has made is The Prestige. I think that one and Memento, obviously. Interstellar, I think, is fantastic. It's just up until the end for me. I think the whole I think that like seeing that black hole is amazing, and like how they did that as well. Like they got that scientist to like put it into a computer of the actual like I don't know what he put into that computer, probably a bunch of numbers.
Research.
Yeah, but basically it gave like the best accurate black hole in computer generated imagery, which is awesome. I like the story. I just think that it's kind of a bit of a cop out where it's just like, who put this black hole here? We did. Whoa. Cool story. Whoa, cool story, bro. But yeah, I do really like it. I think that's and seeing that in cinema was amazing. And then you've got my boy Tenet. 10 out of 10, best film ever made.
Tenet is just I don't know.
Ewan, don't try and understand it. Just feel it.
Thing is, though, is that he says that, and I understand what he means, and often I've done that with Christopher Nolan movies, in that I don't understand much of the world around it and stuff, but I have the characters to follow.
Yeah.
And in Tenet, you don't really have a character to follow. You just have I'm the protagonist. Fuck off.
I love it so much.
Right.
I love it because there's so many lines like that. we both thought we were working for someone else. We were working for me. I'm the protagonist. I mean, best script. No, I mean, admittedly, one of the major reasons I do love that film. We've had many a conversation about this, Ewan, for many hours. Is for the science part. I think that for me personally, I love the science in that film, and I can forgive it. But I'm the first person to agree that there are big problems with it. Like rewatching it, it was so funny because obviously it was Ria's second watching, and then I was like laughing. And I love this film, but I'm laughing at the beginning. Like it's so epic in action. Then you've got characters who have masks on going like, and I was just cracking up. Like, this is so funny. I was like, because I know, like, obviously I've seen it quite a few times, but for anyone, that's just hilarious. But no. So other than that, not really.
Okay.
The Spider-Man was the other one I watched again. Into the Spider-Verse. Sorry, not Into the Across the Spider-Verse.
Is that the second one? I haven't seen the second one yet.
It's fantastic. The only thing I would say is that while watching it, like when it comes on, I watched it with my dad because he'd watched the first one, and we obviously really enjoyed that, so we put it on. And I completely agree with him. Like about 5 minutes in, we were like, "Fucking hell! They need a seizure warning on this because it's so in your face." But I think it's great. I'm looking forward to the third one, but obviously with the writers' strikes and everything on at the moment, I know everything being pushed back. Like loads of stuff has been pushed back, so we'll see. But I'm excited to see it because I think it's going to be a great trilogy if they end it right.
So next week or week after, 2 weeks time, next podcast, I'm thinking 3 films at the moment, and we've got a choice. So I would say Pope's Exorcist.
Yeah. Okay.
They're all going to be Exorcist.
The new Hellraiser.
Yeah, I swear we reviewed that, didn't we?
I think you did, but I don't think we did.
Yeah, we haven't reviewed it like as a main.
Yeah.
So I'd be up for that. To be fair, it's been ages since I've seen that.
Or the Boogeyman.
Boogeyman, didn't that come out last year? Boogeyman.
Or I'll give you a fourth. No, Boogeyman came out recently. Last month. I only had it delivered the other day. It's not been in cinemas long. Or Red Door.
Oh, Insidious.
Yeah,
I haven't seen.
I'd be more inclined to go Insidious because I haven't seen that, and I wouldn't mind seeing how it
I haven't seen 2, 3, and 4.
They're not.
Are they connected in any way to
3's
5?
not 3 and 4.
You're not
really
missing much.
2 is a bit.
Watch the first one. Watch the first one.
I've seen the first one.
Catch up on 2, which I don't like. I really like 3. So
we should review Night Terrors. Is that what it was called, Ewan?
What? When?
In uni. Was it called Night Terrors?
God. I don't know what it was called actually. I feel like it was even like basic or more basic than that. I feel like it was just called Nightmares.
I might have been Nightmares.
Nightmares. What is it?
It was so in second year of uni. Lawrence and I were on the crew for this student film, and you know, it was fine. It's just one of those things where, like, a lot of people put a lot of effort on set, but I feel like before that it wasn't tight. But again, that's just student film life, you know. You just sort of do what you do and see what sticks, sort of thing. But that was an interesting.
I do think we should do that. I do think we should do that. One Bones Horror podcast is, and I mean your film, Jess, as well. Don't think you're excluded from this. We get like you get a bunch of films that we made in uni and stuff, and
I think mine are all gone. You know,
I would rather jump off a bridge.
Let's do it, guys.
Jess,
I never want to see that thing again.
Is Ollie got to do something like that at college or not? Is
yes.
that only when he goes to uni?
Nope, that will be through college. He'll be making films.
So my Jess's brother, he's starting his level. Well, he's doing 2, but it'll probably be a level 3 media production, isn't it, or something?
Creative media production, exactly what I did at college.
So he's doing that. He's probably got very little interest in it, but I'm hoping.
I did think that.
That reminds me.
I'm
God,
hoping he does.
This is going to take you back, Jess, if you remember. That's how I met Jess.
Yes.
Is our teacher
Mhm.
at the time. I had to shoot an awards ceremony.
Yes.
And he had said to
There
me,
was like UFOs and things. And...
Yeah, he said to me, he was like, I want it to start like Star Trek. He was like, I want it to be like where the media department is like its own crew on a ship.
Who was that? Was that Reno or was that Don?
It was Reno. It wasn't
Reno.
Don. Don was just there like, the fuck you doing?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But yeah, you remember like how it would have been your first year, I think, right? Because they had changed the whole film department, so it was like all glass windows, and Reno was like, it looks like the Enterprise.
Yeah.
So, and then he said to me, he was like, oh, there's this. I know someone who should be in this. Oh, she'd be great. She'll do it. And then that's how I got introduced to Jess, and it was me and Jess running around the field with like a little Star Trek thing.
Was Ben there as well? I think Ben was there.
Oh yeah, Ben was in the media
always
department on the computer, just like Captain, we're going.
And all the
Reno
game
was on the chat.
students.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, hopefully Ollie actually takes to it, and
that's so funny.
Yeah.
Does
He
something.
better suddenly become interested in cinematography and like script
I
writing.
don't know.
and-
I just don't know with him. I didn't believe you were, Jess, when you were 16, 17. And look, what happened?
I was really into photography.
Yeah.
And then I was at yours and we watched Chronicle, and I was like, I want to do that.
Chronicle.
Solid
we
movie,
watched
that. Chronicle's great.
Brilliant film.
Nice.
Yeah. And yeah, kind of went from there, I think.
Well, I'm hoping he does something and likes something.
He'll make
alrighty,
Tenet.
so yeah, I can't see him even understanding that at all.
It's alright. If he needs to make a film, we can arrange it.
Yeah. So yeah, that'd be good. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's the Bones Horror Pod. Instagram's the same. I don't think a lot happens in Instagram, Jess, does it? What are you doing on there?
You haven't sent me the password because I've been logged out of it and I can't.
Same as what it was.
It won't let me log in.
Okay.
I've asked.
All right, I will send it again because we've got to do some little shorts.
Yes.
Reels.
Yeah,
shorts,
reels.
and
Yeah, you can follow us on YouTube as well on the Bones Horror Pod.
TikTok.
And we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with.
We haven't decided, have we? Oh, it's sorry, Insidious.
Red Door.
Insidious, Red Door.
I'm going to go watch all of them again because I hate myself.
I love number 3. Yeah, someone Hellraiser 6 or 7 at the moment.
Oh, God.
I really hate myself.
Insidious Anonymous.
Hellraiser Deader I've been on. Hellraiser Deader. Jesus.
God.
Anyway, we'll see you all next week. Or no, the week after.
2 weeks.
Yeah. See you later.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.
You're ignorant.